Let me ask you something before we even get started. When was the last time you actually took your lunch break? I don't mean eating at your desk while you finish a deck. I don't mean answering Slack messages between bites. I mean walked away from your computer, sat somewhere that was not your workstation, and gave yourself 30 uninterrupted minutes to just be a person. If you had to think about it for longer than 3 seconds, this episode is for you. And if your answer was, Shay, I don't have time for all that, then sis, this episode is especially for you because we are going to talk about why that answer is not a badge of honor. It is a warning sign. Welcome back to Rise and Thrive. I'm Shay Blackmon, and this is the space where professional Black women get the strategy, not the slogans. This is episode 87, and today we are deep diving into chapter 7 of my book, Rise and Thrive, a Black woman's blueprint for leadership excellence. The chapter is titled Self-Care as a Professional Strategy, and it opens with a line from Audre Lorde that I want you to sit with for a moment. Caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. Audre Lorde. Political warfare. She did not say bubble baths. She did not say spa day. She said warfare. Because Audre Lorde, who wrote those words while she was living with cancer and living in a body the world was not designed to protect, understood that for Black women, the decision to preserve yourself is a revolutionary act in a system that profits from your depletion. And that is exactly why we are having this conversation today, in April 2026, at this specific moment in your career. Here is the current reality. We are deep into Q2. Performance reviews from Q1 just wrapped. A lot of you are staring down mid-year promotion cycles, headcount conversations, and RTO mandates that are shifting under your feet every other week. The economic climate has organizations asking you to do more with less, and the unspoken expectation is that you will absorb the slack quietly and gratefully. Layer that on top of everything happening in the broader cultural landscape, the rollbacks, the reshuffling, the exhausting public conversations about whether we even belong in the rooms we fought to enter, and you have a recipe for a very specific kind of depletion that shows up uniquely in Black women leaders. We are not tired because we are weak. We are tired because we are carrying weight that was never supposed to be ours, in bodies that were never meant to be sacrificed on the altar of someone else's quarterly earnings. So today, I am giving you the business case, the framework, and the actual tools to shift self-care from something you feel guilty about into something you treat with the same discipline you bring to a board presentation. Depth over sound bites, strategy over slogans, real talk. Let's get into it. Let's start with the frame shift, because everything else I give you today collapses if this piece is not locked in. Self-care for Black women in leadership is not a luxury. It is not a reward you earn after you close the deal or launch the initiative or finish the degree. It is strategic infrastructure. It is the operating system that allows every other skill you have to actually function. In my first book, High Value Leadership, I made the argument that sustainable leadership requires personal sustainability. For Black women, that truth carries additional weight because of what researchers call racial battle fatigue, which is the cumulative physiological and psychological toll of navigating predominantly white professional spaces. The data shows we experience higher rates of stress-related health issues, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune conditions, and burnout. And yet, we are the most likely demographic to frame rest as laziness and boundaries as selfishness. So let me give you the ROI conversation that shifts this. The ROI of self-care, enhanced decision-making. Well-rested leaders make sharper strategic choices. A depleted brain literally cannot see 3 moves ahead. It is running on survival firmware. Increased creativity. Innovation requires mental space. You cannot think your way to the next breakthrough when every cognitive cycle is spent managing exhaustion. Improved relationships. Emotional regulation is a muscle that atrophies when you are running on fumes. The version of you that is rested is a more effective leader, a more present partner, a more patient parent. Greater resilience. Regular renewal builds capacity for challenge. You cannot withdraw from an account you never deposit into. Sustained performance. Preventing burnout is what allows you to still be in the game in year 10, year 15, year 25. A lot of brilliant Black women flame out not because they lacked talent, but because they were never taught that rest was part of the job. Now let's flip to the cost of neglect, because the numbers work both directions. The cost of neglect. Decreased productivity. You are slower, not faster when you skip breaks. Impaired judgment. Tired leaders make emotional decisions they later regret. Strained relationships at work and at home. Health complications that show up in your body long before they show up in your performance reviews. And ultimately, career derailment, either because burnout takes you out or because you stop showing up as your best and your performance starts to tell that story. So here's the reframe I want you to carry into every conversation where someone, including your own inner critic, suggests that your well-being is negotiable. Self-care is professional development. The way you invest in a certification or a conference, you invest in the practices that maintain your most valuable asset, which is you. Let me paint you a picture because frameworks land better when you can see them. There was a company I know of in the manufacturing space where a senior leader, a Black woman, was the go-to for every crisis, every escalation, every customer audit, every investigation, every leadership off-site planning committee, every employee resource group request. If something was on fire, she was on the email thread. If a VIP visitor was coming through, she was on the welcome committee. If someone needed mentoring, guess whose calendar got a 15-minute hold? On paper, she was the highest performer on the team. In her body, she was running a 4.5-year sleep deficit and her blood pressure was quietly climbing. When she finally took a proper vacation, the first one in 3 years, she got pneumonia on day 2. Her body had been waiting for permission to fall apart. Now here's where the strategic piece kicks in. When she came back, she did not apologize. She did not overwork to make up for the time. She restructured. She identified 3 things that only she could do, and she delegated or declined the rest. She made her well-being a KPI. And within a year, she was promoted. Not in spite of the boundaries, because of them. Because leaders who can sustain their performance are worth more to an organization than leaders who are brilliant flameouts. I have watched this pattern play out across industries. I have seen it in automotive, in healthcare, in nonprofits, in quick service operations, in professional services. The specifics change, the pattern does not. Black women leaders are often carrying an invisible operational load that the organization has not formally accounted for, cannot compensate, and expects you to just handle. And the only person who can set the limit on that load is you. Because here is the uncomfortable truth. Nobody is coming to save you. No manager is going to audit your calendar and say, you know what? You are doing too much. Let me take some of this back. The organization will take every ounce you offer. Your preservation is your job. Okay, let's get tactical. In Chapter 7, I introduce a framework called harmony, and the word choice is deliberate. I am not talking about work-life balance, because balance suggests a perfect 50-50 split that does not exist for any human being on earth, let alone a Black woman leader who is also often a mother, a wife, a caretaker, a community member, a chapter officer, a doctoral student, or all of the above at once. Balance is a myth. Integration is the goal. Harmony is how we get there. 7 letters, 7 moves. Walk with me. H. Honor your rhythms. Your body has a peak performance window. For some of us, it is 5 to 8 in the morning. For others, it is after the kids go to bed. Figure out yours, and then, to the extent you can control your calendar, schedule your most demanding cognitive work inside that window. Protect it like a board meeting, because that is what it is. A meeting with your highest functioning self. A. Align priorities. This is where we practice the word no. Every yes to a request that does not align with your priorities is a no to something that does. Define your non-negotiables. Put wellness on your calendar with the same authority you put a client meeting. And when a misaligned opportunity shows up, remember, a polite no is a complete sentence. R. Ritualize renewal. Rituals beat willpower every single time. A morning ritual that centers you. A midday break that actually breaks. An evening ritual that releases the workday from your nervous system. Weekend activities that refill you instead of draining you further. If it is on autopilot, you do not have to negotiate with yourself about whether you have time. M. Manage technology. The phone is a tool. You are not its employee. Set email windows. Create phone-free zones in your home. Use auto-responses strategically. The person who is always available is the person who is least valued, because availability itself is not a differentiator. What you bring when you are focused and sharp is O. Optimize, support, delegate. At work, yes, but also at home. Invest in time-saving services where your budget allows. A house cleaner, grocery delivery, meal prep, a virtual assistant for your side business. If an hour of your time is worth more than the cost of the service, you are not being extravagant. You are being strategic. Cultivate relationships that sustain you. And build backup plans for your high-stress seasons, because we all have them. N. Nurture joy. This one is the one we skip, because joy feels frivolous when there is so much to do. Schedule regular pleasure. Maintain hobbies that have nothing to do with productivity. Celebrate small victories. Create moments of delight on purpose. Joy is not a reward, it is fuel. Y. Yield to rest. Take actual lunch breaks. Use your vacation time, all of it, every single year. Practice saying, I am unavailable, without the 16-paragraph explanation. And treat sleep as a non-negotiable line item in your performance plan, because it is. When you run those 7 moves together, you get something that looks less like balance and more like a life that can actually hold your ambition without breaking you. That is harmony, and that is the real work. Now we need to talk about boundaries, because harmony does not hold without them, and boundaries are complicated for Black women in a very specific way. We are expected to be endlessly available, endlessly accommodating, endlessly strong. The strong Black woman archetype is a cage dressed up as a compliment. And every time we set a limit, we are often met with a version of, wow, that is not like you, which is code for, you used to be easier to exploit. Set the boundaries anyway. In Chapter 7, I outline 5 types of professional boundaries, and I want to name them all so you can audit your own situation. The 5 boundary types: time boundaries, work hours, meeting availability, response times, project deadlines. When do you start? When do you stop? What is your reply window? Emotional boundaries, not absorbing other people's stress. Limiting how much emotional labor you perform for colleagues. Protecting your own feelings. Managing where your energy gets invested. Physical boundaries. Workspace respect. Personal space. Touch preferences, because yes, people still try to touch our hair in 2026. Physical comfort at work. Mental boundaries. Cognitive load limits. Decision fatigue prevention. Mental health protection. And, importantly, intellectual property. Your ideas belong to you until you choose to share them and get credit. Role boundaries, job description clarity, responsibility limits, authority parameters. What is actually in scope for you, and what is scope creep that someone is trying to quietly bolt on? Here's the real talk layer. A boundary without a script is just a wish. So let me give you 4 scripts you can steal word for word. 4 boundary scripts you can use tomorrow. For excessive requests when you are already at capacity, I am at capacity with current priorities. Let's discuss what can be deprioritized if this is urgent. For after-hours contact from a manager or colleague, I maintain work-free evenings for family time. I will address this first thing tomorrow. For the colleague who is emotionally dumping on you every week, I want to be supportive, but I am not equipped to help with this. Have you considered professional resources? For scope creep, when someone keeps adding work that was not in the original agreement, this falls outside our agreed parameters. Let's revisit the project scope and resources needed. Memorize one of those this week. Rehearse it out loud in the mirror if you have to. Because when the moment comes, the goal is for the script to roll off your tongue before your people-pleasing reflex can hijack your mouth. I want to pause and connect what we are doing right now to my broader methodology, high-value leadership, because this chapter is not a standalone conversation. It is one of the 5 pillars. High-value leadership is built on purpose-driven vision, stewardship of culture, emotional intelligence, balanced responsibility, and authentic connection. And self-care is the infrastructure underneath all 5. You cannot cast a compelling vision when you are too exhausted to dream. You cannot steward a culture when your nervous system is in permanent fight or flight. Emotional intelligence requires emotional capacity, and you cannot regulate what you have not restored. Balanced responsibility literally has balance in the name, and authentic connection requires you to actually be present, which is impossible when you are running on fumes. So when I say self-care is political warfare, I am not being dramatic. I am being accurate. Every Black woman who sustains her leadership without sacrificing her body and her spirit is dismantling a lie that the system has told for centuries, which is that our value is measured by how much of ourselves we give away. I want to bring in another voice here, because Audre Lorde gave us the opening frame, but Bell Hooks gives us the closing one for this chapter. Healing takes place within us as we speak the truth of our lives. Bell Hooks. Read that again. Healing takes place within us as we speak the truth of our lives. Part of what makes self-care so hard for us is that we have been taught, explicitly and implicitly, not to tell the truth about how tired we are. We smile through the fatigue. We say, "I am fine," when we are drowning. We perform wellness on LinkedIn while we are falling apart at home, and the performance itself becomes another full-time job. Bell Hooks is telling us that the healing begins the moment we stop performing. The moment we say out loud to someone safe, "I am not okay, and I need to make changes." That sentence is a boundary. That sentence is self-care. That sentence is the beginning of political warfare, because a system that depends on your silence loses power the moment you find your voice. Audre Lorde lived this same truth. When she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she refused to be silent about her pain, her fear, her rage, and her healing. She wrote the cancer journals precisely because she understood that Black women had been dying quietly for generations, and she refused to die quietly. Her self-care was loud. Her preservation was documented. Her warfare was public. That is the inheritance she left us. So the next time you are tempted to perform wellness when you are actually unraveling, I want you to hear Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde in your ear, telling you that the truth is the medicine and the boundary is the weapon, and both of them are yours by birthright. Let's bring this home, because I do not want you to click off this video feeling inspired and then do nothing, because inspiration without action is just entertainment, and we do not do entertainment on this channel. Here is your practical assignment. 3 exercises. All of them fit in under 45 minutes combined. Do them this week. Get a piece of paper or open a fresh note on your phone. Answer these 4 questions honestly. What drains my energy? What replenishes me? When do I feel most depleted? When do I feel most vibrant? Do not overthink it. The first answer that comes to you is usually the truest one. Then look at your next 7 days and audit your calendar against this list. Where can you add one thing that replenishes you? Where can you subtract one thing that drains you? That is your assignment. Pick one boundary, just one. Write it down like this. Starting Monday, I will no longer behavior. Instead, I will new behavior. For example, starting Monday, I will no longer check email after 7 p.m. Instead, I will put my phone in a drawer and spend that time with my family or on my couch with a book. Say it out loud. Text it to a trusted friend so someone else knows. Accountability turns intentions into actions. Block 20 minutes on your calendar this week, just you, and ask yourself 3 questions. Am I operating from strength or reaction right now? What one thing could I remove from my plate this quarter that nobody would actually miss but me? Who do I need to ask for help and what is stopping me? Then write the answers down, because a thought written down becomes a decision, and a decision becomes a plan, and a plan becomes a life. If you want the expanded version of all of this, I go deep into it in the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide, which is my free toolkit that walks you through self-awareness, healthy coping, internal resources, external support, learning orientation, and daily practices. It is a full framework. I will drop the link in the show notes below, and it is free. Please go get it. All right, let's bring it all the way home. Chapter 7 of Rise and Thrive is called Self-Care as a Professional Strategy, and the whole argument is this. Your well-being is not separate from your leadership. It is the foundation that makes your leadership possible. When you care for yourself, you are not taking something away from the organization. You are making sure you can keep giving to the organization, and to your family, and to your community, and to your own dreams for the next 30 years, instead of burning yourself to the ground in the next 3. Audre Lorde told us this is political warfare. Bell Hooks told us it begins with telling the truth. I am telling you, from 20-plus years of HR leadership across manufacturing, automotive, healthcare, nonprofit, quick service, and professional services, that the most sustainable, most promoted, most influential Black women leaders I have ever worked with are not the ones who sacrifice the most. They are the ones who learned, usually the hard way, to preserve themselves on purpose. Be one of them. Here is your challenge for this week. In the comments below, I want you to tell me one boundary you are setting and one self-care practice you are adding, just one of each, no essays required. Because when you name it in public, the community holds you to it, and that is how we rise and thrive together instead of alone. Your question might also become a future Ask Shay deep dive, so do not be shy. If this episode spoke to you, do me 3 quick favors. Hit that like button because it genuinely helps other Black women find this content. Subscribe if you have not already because Wednesdays are ours and I do not want you to miss a single one. And share this with one sister in your life who needs to hear that her rest is revolutionary. All the resources I mentioned, the Shield Resilience Strategy Guide, the Rise and Thrive book, the Blackmon Brief newsletter, and everything else are linked in the description below. Quick reminder, if you are a leader of any background looking to transform your organizational culture, check out my other podcast, Unlock, Empower, Transform, which drops Tuesdays and Thursdays. That one is for all leaders. But Wednesdays are ours. I am Shay Blackmon. Unlock, Empower, Transform. Until next Wednesday, preserve yourself on purpose and rise and thrive.